Now I can already see the comment section of this video before I even begin. You are asking, Jen, why did you choose to play the remake of Secret of Mana as opposed to the original on the SNES? Why? I don't have a great answer, but I have an answer nonetheless, and it's simply because I own it on the PlayStation 4, I could play it on my PlayStation 5, I picked this up brand new, relatively cheap, and trophies, I guess? But yes, today's video is going to be on A Secret of Mana and my first experience with the game, so with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. As always, got you covered with timestamps down below, so if you want to skip to a certain section of this video, feel free to do so, whatever floats your boat. All I ask is for you to support the channel and hit that like button, and if you like the content that you are seeing, please consider hitting that subscribe button. So let's dive straight in to the remake of Secret of Mana, and I guess I got to experience the SNES one eventually, but we're just talking about my first playthrough of Secret of Mana, and it just so happens to be the PS4 version. I also streamed the entire playthrough on Twitch, and I had a thoroughly good time playing it. You get to see my trials, my tribulations, the frustrations, the happiness, and everything else in between, but it was enjoyable nonetheless. But let's dive into the game itself. I have no experience with the Mana series until I played this one. So, the story of Secret of Mana, and it's a pretty basic story. You essentially play as Randy. I don't know if the characters were named in the SNES version, I'm sure people will point that out to me, but you play as Randy. You are just being mischievous, playing in the woods, and you come across the Mana Sword. And the Mana Sword needs 8 elements to get its full power to essentially kind of save the world from this flying fortress. The world isn't happy that the fact that this is going on, and you kind of get everything and meet everyone along the way, trying to nutshell it and not go into too much depth, but it is what it is. I enjoyed the story for what it was. I certainly think that it picked itself up as you got later into the game and met some characters, and there's some pretty entertaining ones as well. And I guess this is a moment to kind of shout out the voice acting, because this remake has voice acting. I've heard many things about the voice acting of Secret of Mana, and it's tolerable at best. There were definitely moments where I was like, please stop, I'll just read the text. But in other moments where you have these character interactions when you rest at the inn, when you're progressing certain parts of the story, it did add a little bit to these characters. Randy, Prim, and Papoy, I think is how it's pronounced. Probably pronounced it wrong, but we'll roll with it anyway. It gave a little bit of charm to the characters, but it was nice speaking to all of the NPCs because they're voiced too, and it just added to the overall arcing story. Not the greatest voice acting, I guess it might have been the voice direction, not the acting itself, but it told the story that I needed to hear. We will move on from story and we'll go straight to the gameplay, and I want to talk about exploration at first, because Secret of Mana certainly has its fair share of maps to explore. So essentially you are going from town to town, and you're going into dungeons in between and collecting the elements to power up the Mana Sword. We go through many towns with many NPCs and shops to visit. Treasure chests are hidden too, and then you have like field areas where it's full of enemies. Each field area feels unique. Very, very nice looking in this remake. I do like the graphical style of this remake, and I have no issues with that. But as we go through towns and through fields, we get to certain points which will be locked by certain elemental abilities that need to be used, and I could not find the right one to use every time I come across those obstacles. Those obstacles come across in dungeons as well, and I'm just going through every single spell that I've got to try and get through, and it's always the last one that I picked. There are also many ways to get across the world of Secret of Mana, one of them being cannons. It was very, very funny just to know that cannons were a mode of transport to get to certain locations across the world. But the shining star for me was certainly when we got Flammy and we had this world map to explore. I was just like, wow, This is awesome. We've got the music accompanying it. I can go anywhere I want to that I visited previously. The game has guided me, but now it's telling me the world is your oyster. Go as you please. And I really enjoyed that when it came to the exploration of Secret of Mana. Another thing to note before we move on, I really like the mini-map. I don't know if it was using the original SNES graphics, but it has that kind of SNES graphical feel, so I'm sure you guys will be able to confirm or deny if that is actually taken straight from the NES version or if it's just a recreation to kind of give that retro feel when it comes to the little mini-map up in the corner. I touched on dungeons ever so slightly, and these were pretty enjoyable. You know, going through these and trying to work out what to do. Some of them had little puzzles, some of them didn't, but it did add to the overall experience, and I didn't really have too much frustration with them. It was just those elemental gates getting in the way where I had to guess which spell to use, though it might have been pretty obvious what to use at some stage. I think one of the dungeons I went through, I needed to get rid of the lava, so it was natural to use like a water elemental spell, but I was just going through all my fire spells for some strange reason. The dungeons, yeah, they're alright, not bad at all. Moving on from exploration, let's talk about combat, and there is a lot to combat when it comes to Secret of Mana. This isn't a bash action RPG, this is more strategic. You have your ring menu, we'll go into that in just a second, but essentially you charge to attack, and the more charge you have, the higher your attack. You can keep spamming the X button, but you're not going to get anywhere, and you're not going to deal hardly any damage, but there is a lot of flexibility to this combat system because there are many weapons you can use. It is nice that every single character can use every single weapon, and we'll talk more about weapons when we talk about menus and the progression when it comes to that kind of stuff. But the combat, it was nice to mess around with. It was a little bit more slower for me than I thought, but I soon got used to it. Not only are there many weapons to choose from, as you unlock more elementals, you get access to more spells. Now, looking at all of these characters, they come with their own kind of spells within the same elements. Like Randy, I'm pretty sure I had like the elemental swords and the defense kind of spells, and then I had Papoy, who had like more of the curative spells and the kind of more attack spells. There might have been Prim actually, but each character had their own unique spells within the elements, and you kind of mix it up a bit and really adds to the combat. Now, the ring menu, the menu that I just could not get on with pretty much throughout the game. I was very confused on my shortcut keys because you could add certain spells or attacks to the R1 and L1 buttons, but that was very restrictive. Maybe this is just me being more modern and not accepting what this game was based on, because this is pretty much true to form when it came to the SNES version, so you are limited to what you can have to your shortcuts. I would have loved more shortcuts, but we're just dealing with what we got here, and I had to keep going into the ring menu. I was getting confused. I was picking the wrong person, I was picking the wrong item, I was picking the wrong menu, and I think that might have been more on me than the actual game, but I do wish there was a bit more flexibility to it so it was more easier to use. Staying on the subject of combat, I want to talk about like the level progression. So we have weapons, we have magic. We level up the weapons by collecting orbs, by doing either side quests or defeating certain bosses, and it levels up the weapon takes a new form, it will have higher attack, and it will have a few other bells and whistles to it. Magic is a little bit different. All you have to do is use magic. The more you use your magic, the powerful it'll get. There are certain spots in the map where you can take advantage of this, but I played it pretty naturally. I didn't go out my way to grind, and I certainly came across some obstacles along the way, but apart from that, I didn't invest too much time. Maybe I would have got a better experience if I put in more time when it came to leveling up the spells, but I certainly leveled up weapons as best as I could, and the fact that I managed to roll credits just by doing that was pretty satisfying for me as the player. One more thing I want to touch on is the boss battles. I really enjoyed the boss battles. They were pretty unique. There was one really frustrating one. I'm talking about the one with tongue, the one that likes to lick. And that one was really frustrating because I truly seen how the hitboxes work for Secret of Mana, especially the remake, and I did not like it. I did not like it whatsoever. I did not know how to beat this boss. It kept licking me and it was very, very frustrating. But it was at that time where I accepted the fact that maybe I should have leveled up some of my magic, maybe I should have invested in a few other weapons. And the boss battles, to be fair, they were what they were. Now, before I finish off, I want to talk about the music. I freaking love the music of Secret of Mana. I primarily listened to the reorchestrated or the remade soundtrack, and I didn't hear a single bad track. I absolutely loved what I heard. There was some bangers, there was some funky tunes along the way, and I really liked the Flammy music. But when it was intense, when it was like the end of the world time and you were going to like the final dungeon, I loved the music that was playing there as well. Great soundtrack for Secret of Mana. And that is about it when it comes to Secret of Mana. Even though I played the remake, I know I will play the SNES version eventually to see if I get a different experience, but I had a good time with the remake nonetheless. Yes, there was frustrations along the way. Yes, I should have probably invested in my spells a little bit more, but apart from that, it was an adventure and I enjoyed my time with Secret of Mana, and I'm ready to explore more Mana games. Is there anything I should know when it comes to the Mana series? Please let me know. Have you played the remake as opposed to playing the original first? Are you in the same boat as me? Is there anyone out there? Please let me know. But I thank you for your time. If you like what you've seen, please consider hitting that like button. If you want to stick around with the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.